Now we know we've got a connection to our hub, let's go ahead and implement the send comment functionality from our client side. And what we can do for this, you can go back to our comment store and we can simply add a method inside here. So we'll call it add comments, and this is going to be an async method, and we're going to pass values from our comment form, and we'll just use the any type for this. We're not going to create a type specifically for the data we're sending up to our server. What we'll need to do though is get the activity ID for the comment we're about to send and add it to our values here. So we'll say values and activity ID. Be careful with spelling because we're not adding type safety here. And we'll say the value of the activity ID is the store.activitystore.selectedactivity.id. And then we'll add a try-catch block and take the error, and we'll just console.log any error. And what we'll do is we'll say await this.hub connection, and we can invoke a method on our server. And we're invoking this method directly on our API server here. So what we need to do is say send comment, and this needs to match exactly the name. And let's go back to our chat hub just to confirm this. This is the name it needs to match, the name of the method that we want to invoke on the server itself. So we'll go back to our comment store, and what we'll do is we'll simply pass up the values as though this was a post request and we're sending up the values in the body. And we don't need to do anything else because in our hub connection itself, we've got the method here. So on receive comment, we're going to get this comment back from our server and it's going to push it into our comments array. And if we go to our chat hub, then when we do send a comment, then this method is going to execute and pass back the comment.value, and any clients that are connected will receive this comment if they're in the group for that activity ID. So now we can go to our activity detail chat and deal with the form that we're using to send the comments. So what we'll do is we'll add Formic. We'll make use of Formic for this since we have it. And what we'll do is we'll give Formic its required properties, the onSubmit, and we'll take the values. And what we'll also do is we'll get another property from Formic called resetForm and add this in the curly brackets. And then we'll say comment store dot add comments, pass through the values, and then what we'll do is we'll use the resetForm function that we just added to the props that we passed to this method. And what we'll also do is give it the initial values, which is not very much in this case. All we need to do is open up an object in curly brackets and say the body is just an empty string. And inside Formic, what we'll do is we'll use render props. So we'll open curly brackets, parentheses, then destructure what we want from Formic, and we'll get the is submitting and is valid. And after the parentheses, we'll open up an arrow, more parentheses, and then we're going to use a form from Formic. Now we've got our form here, so I'm just going to cut what we have here and paste it inside. We'll remove reply, and the form we want to get from Formic, not Semantic UI. So we'll scroll up to the imports. Let's remove the form from Semantic UI, and we'll replace it with the form that we get from Formic. And we'll scroll back down, and the form will give a class name equal to UI form. And then we'll swap the text area we have here for the reusable text area we created earlier, and say my text area, and we'll give it a placeholder equal to add comments, and we'll give it a name equal to body, and we'll give it rows equal to 2. And then for the button, what we'll do is we'll say loading equals is submitting. We'll disable it if we are is submitting or the form is not valid. And I know we haven't added the validation for this yet, but we'll come back to that. The content will leave the same. We'll keep the label there for now. The icon will stay the same, primary. We'll give it a type equal to submit. And we'll make it floated to the right. And what we should be able to do now is go and test this functionality works. So let's just close down the DevTools, just refresh the page to make sure we're working with a clean activity. And in theory now, and we've got our button floated off the segment. So I'm just going to go back, and before we test, let's just clean that up. And we can make the segment a clearing segment so that our float works inside the browser. And it's back. So what we should be able to do is type in test, click on add reply, and we see the comment along with the comment author information, the created at date, and the comment author's image as well. Cool. But what we should also be able to do is connect to this activity from another browser anywhere in the world, albeit once we've published this, of course, and we should see the comments live in that browser. So in another browser, I'm logged in as Jane, and if I go to the same activity, future activity 1, click on view, then I can see Bob's comment inside there. Great. But if I just say hello Bob and then add reply, then what I should see is that this is on Bob's browser as well, and it arrives at the same time because now we're connected to SignalR and it's capable of notifying all connected clients when a new comment is received. And it goes the other way as well, so I'll just say hello Jane from this browser, and if I add reply, then we should see this in the other browser at the same time. Looking good. But there are a few changes I want to make to this system. This comment window, I'd prefer to be above the comments, and I would also prefer not to click on a button to submit the comment as well, and I also don't want to be able to send an empty comment to the server. So all of those things we'll correct in the next lesson.